If we think of major events in the past 20 years that changed our world, there's a particular moment that stands as a catalyst to so much that has defined our era and impacted millions of people. The terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001 changed much about the world as we know it and ushered in a new era of conflict and fear. On September 11, 2001, 19 militants associated with Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 aeroplanes and carried out suicide attacks against targets in the United States. 2 of the planes were flown into New York's iconic Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. The 3rd plane hit the Pentagon just outside Washington, D.C., and the 4th plane crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. Using the War on Terror as an excuse, the US initiated wars in Afghanistan and then Iraq.
Our American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours.
These are Arabs who are going to welcome us as liberators.
Who will govern Iraq when Saddam Hussein is removed?
The most powerful military in world history would go in, kill the bad guys, and transform Iraq into a democratic, pro-American oasis. But
Iraqis are dead because you lied! You lied! You lied!
Saddam Hussein's violations of human rights.
Iraq had
weapons of mass destruction.
We don't want the smoking gun to be a mushroom cloud.
But those weapons of mass destruction were never found. Millions of people knew invading Iraq was wrong. 20 years on, they've been proven right time and time again.
The American-led invasion of Iraq is often remembered as a cakewalk. Coalition forces surging into Baghdad in less than 3 weeks, ending Saddam Hussein's 30-year reign. However, Operation Iraqi Freedom is far more complex than at first glance. All that, as well as the ominous beginnings of insurgency and civil war. This is the 2003 invasion of Iraq.
The 2003 US invasion of Iraq was the culmination of more than a decade of hostile US foreign policy towards Iraq and Saddam Hussein, which was itself the result of wider Western geopolitical interests in the Middle East. It's first important to establish where the American interest in the Middle East, and the Persian Gulf states in particular, comes from in the first place. The answer to that is really as simple as oil. A good summary of this history comes from Steve Yativ, a liberal American political scientist specialized in the geopolitics of oil.
The Iraq War was perceived by many as a move to have total control of the oil resources in the region and secure Washington's dominant role in formulating global energy policies. In October 2000, Saddam Hussein moved to switch Iraq's oil trade from the dollar to the euro. But the US invasion of 2003 set the country's oil industry safely back into dollar denomination.
سكرها نجيبها لكم، نسوي لكم هاي الشوارع عندنا نعطيكم اياها، نسوي لكم مجاري، كهرباء نعطيكم اياها، ماكو كل هذا ماكو، في سبيل اجوا ودمروا الشعب، باقوا ثروات العراق، باقوا شعب العراق كله وراحوا وانهزموا هم.
والله بال20 سنة كل شيء متحقق بالعراق. لا شوارع، لا تبليط، لا امان، يعني ما تحقق شيء بالعراق.
وعد بوش بانه سوف يجعل العراق جنة بعد سقوط النظام. لكن العكس ما شفناه يعني.
والله العراق مثل ما هو ما تغير شيء لحد الآن. كنا نتأمل يعني المواطن يتأمل الأحسن لحد الآن أي تغيير ما صار.
Iraqis under 25 have never known a day when their country wasn't being bombed, sanctioned, or occupied by the United States. Maybe that's why 93% of them see the US as their enemy.
والله أنا أشوف الأمريكان طبعاً أعداء للعراق.
Iraq, which sits on some of the world's largest oil reserves, remains one of the poorest countries in the region.
حارب البيت.
It's 2023, and the promise of a prosperous, oil-financed and democratic Iraq has yet to materialize.
لأن ما معقول شغلة 18 سنة و20 سنة لحد الآن مشكلة الكهرباء.
ما يعني للأسوأ يعني من 2003 والوضعية ما تغيرت، كل ما يتغير النظام وبعدنا النظام نفسه على حطته.
The legacy of the US war in Iraq has been characterized by political instability, sectarian violence, corruption, and a failure to establish a sustainable and accountable government. The US-led reconstruction effort has failed to establish a transparent and accountable system, leaving Iraq struggling to rebuild and establish a functioning democracy. For years since the US-led invasion, the lack of political stability and security not only devastated the country's economy, infrastructure, and social fabric, but also meant Iraq was unable to attract significant foreign investment. Iraqis, however, have been battling another, perhaps more pervasive issue: corruption. In October 2022, a probe uncovered a staggering $2.5 billion of embezzled tax funds in what was described as the heist of the century. Combined with poor governance and the absence of accountability, a lack of transparency has hindered the country's ability to effectively manage the distribution of its oil wealth, leaving the public with little information on how oil revenues are being spent and how contracts are being awarded.
من 2003 إلى هسه شنو هو الإنجاز اللي سووه الحكومات المتعاقبة؟ مو كلها سرقات وكلها أذية.
تغيير الحكومة الفاسدة إلى حكومة شريفة وطنية عراقية بحت، ونريد الشباب مثلا يتعينون، ونريد الشباب مثلا يصعدوا أمنيات.
مستقبل ما عندنا يعني احنا حاليا. العراق من 2003 لحد هاي اللحظه ما شافنا امل هذه الشغلات والمشاريع اللي يعملها خارج العراق.
احنا صرنا اضعف، ليش؟ لان خيرنا مو إن خيرنا لغيرنا. العراق الصورة اللي قلت بيها مبيوع، العراق مبيوع.
إن شاء الله يرجع العراق بخير إن شاء الله.